Hey everybody, what is happening? I want to do a quick video because I think everyone needs to hear this, especially around motivation. Okay, so it's what, week 3 now since the gyms have closed. I think week 3, or the start of week 4. It's been a fair bit of time now since gyms have closed, and what we're seeing is a lot of people obviously are, they're struggling. They've stopped doing workouts, food has gone out the window, their positivity has dropped, okay, their mental attitude has dropped. And so I wanted to get on, do a quick video, and I want to try and hopefully get a lot of you back on track. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. First thing I want to talk about is intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, okay, and what they are. And you may have heard of them, you may not have heard of them, but you may not understand them a little bit. So, for example, let's talk about specifically about fitness and getting goals, right? So when it comes to intrinsic motivation, that's doing something because it's personally rewarding to me, okay? So, for example, maybe you really do want hard to find abs, and so you train them every day and you stick to your meal plans, you recover, you do all of that, right? Because it's personally rewarding to you. Where I think a lot of you are going wrong is, whilst you have goals about losing weight, toning up, or whatever, the majority of your motivation comes from extrinsic motivation, right? So that involves basically doing something because you want to earn a reward, right? Or you want to avoid a certain punishment. Now, it's not that it's a bad thing. You need both. But if you rely solely on that extrinsic motivation, okay, doing something like, for example, you show up for PT because you don't want to avoid the punishment from the PT. You don't want to avoid the punishment of losing the money, okay? Are you actually really relying on intrinsic forces and doing it yourself? Maybe not. So we take away the gym, we take away certain large payments, right? And many people have had discounted payments, okay, or taken away altogether for those that completely stopped, okay? So you're not having to go anywhere now. You're not necessarily having to pay the same or at all anymore. And so you have no intrinsic motivations, okay? You know that health and fitness is good for you and training is good for you, but your motivation relied solely on extrinsic factors. Okay, now what you need to do is you need to ask yourself, well, I need to do something that's personally rewarding for me. Okay, that's the first step. All right, exercise is rewarding for me, and you need to discover why. Because it allows me to sleep better, which means I feel better throughout the day at work. I'm not snappy, I'm not moody. I enjoy being around my partner, my kids, my family more. You need to think about those things that are happening around there and start to focus on those, because a lot of those extrinsic factors now are completely gone. So that's step number 1, intrinsic versus extrinsic, okay? Now, number 2, I want to talk to you about this because this is a cool thing from Jocko Willink. If you haven't heard of him, then you should go and read, or you can check out his podcast, but you can obviously read the book Extreme Ownership as well, which is a fantastic book. But here's a little snippet. This is an exact quote from him. Accomplishing your goals is not about motivation, it's about discipline. Motivation is fickle, right? Motivation comes and goes. You guys know that. Motivation is unreliable. And when you're counting on motivation to get your goals accomplished, you're likely going to fall short. Don't count on motivation, count on discipline. You know what you have to do, so go make yourself do it. Okay, really important. Motivation is fickle. It's up and down. There's going to be times when you're not motivated. Okay, but if you're solely relying on the fact, and this is where so many of you are going wrong, is you're saying, I'm not motivated to train. And you stick with that story. I'm not motivated. I'm not motivated. How do I get motivation? Well, step 3 is, how do you get motivated? And here's another good quote. Success is the result of daily practice and incremental growth compounded over time. Okay? 3 things that you need to do. You need to do something every day. So to build that motivation, okay, well, and to get that success, you're going to have to do it every day, whether you like it or not. And that's the question here. That's the thing what you've got to sort of argue with yourself whenever you go, really not motivated to train today. Okay, it's actually not a motivation thing. It's the fact that you don't want to train. And that's completely okay, believe it or not. I'm okay if you say I don't want to train today. What I'm not okay with you is saying that I don't want to train, so I'm not going to train. There are days where I don't feel like writing you guys programs. There are days where I feel like I don't want to communicate with my clients, but it's not a question of like. So whenever you sitting around at the home next day, or your alarm goes off, and you say, I don't feel like getting out of bed. I want you to say to yourself that it's completely okay to think that. What's not okay is to then allow that thought to control your action and say, well, I'm just going to stay in bed then. I wasn't motivated this morning. I didn't feel like doing it. Well, I bet you don't feel like going to work, but you have to do that as well. Exercise is exactly the same thing. Exercise is exactly the same thing. You don't have to feel like working out, but you still have to do it. Just like you have to get up and go to work, just like you have to drop your kids off to school, just like you have to eat, all of those things. So it's never a factor of like, but you must do it. So I want you to start taking into consideration those things. I want you to make a plan to build some intrinsic motivational factors. Okay, why am I doing this for myself? What does this give me at the end? Okay, I want you to think about number 2 and saying that if I'm going to rely solely on motivation, then I'm screwed. All right. And number 3, I want you to focus on telling yourself that it's okay not to like doing something, but you still have to do it anyway. So if that helps, drop a comment below, let me know. You need to change your mindset on that motivation because it's going to be up and down. It's going to come and go. Okay. But if you're relying solely on just that, then you're in trouble. There's heaps of things that you're not going to like to do in life, but you still find yourself doing them. Exercise has to be one of those things as well. Peace.